Have you ever been in a room full of people, laughing, talking, everyone seeming to connect with each other, and somehow you're still standing there, feeling like you don't exist? Not sad exactly, not angry either, just unseen, like you could quietly leave, and it would take a while before anyone noticed you were gone. Most people assume this feeling means something is wrong with them, that they're boring, or too quiet, or somehow unlikable. So they try to fix themselves. They practice small talk before parties. They force a bit more energy into their voice. And then the next room happens. And somehow, the exact same feeling shows up again, no matter how prepared they were. That's usually the moment people quietly give up trying to explain it, and just accept it as who they are. But that's not actually what's happening. What's happening is a pattern, one your brain learned a long time ago, in circumstances that may not even exist anymore, and one that's still quietly running in the background of almost every room you walk into. Today, we're going through 3 silent signs that you've been living inside this pattern without fully realizing it. The first one shows up the moment you walk into any room. And it's so quiet, most people mistake it for their personality. And later in this video, I'll show you the third sign, the one that's almost never talked about, because it doesn't look like sadness at all. It looks like a strangely good memory. Here's sign number 1. Sign 1. You've stopped testing whether people notice you. Think about the last time you said something in a group just to see if anyone would respond. Not because it mattered, just to see if your voice would land somewhere. If you're struggling to remember, that's the sign. Somewhere along the way, you quietly stopped testing whether people would notice you. Because testing risks an answer you don't want. And not testing lets you keep the comfortable guess instead. This isn't random. It comes from something your brain does with almost everything. It predicts. It predicted the last hot stove would burn you. So now you're careful around stoves without even thinking about it. And if it's learned, through enough overlooked moments, that speaking up rarely leads anywhere, it starts predicting the same outcome before you even open your mouth. In a new room, with new people, who've never overlooked you at all. So instead, something subtle happens. You rehearse a comment in your head, then quietly decide against it. You wait for the perfect gap in conversation, and the gap always closes before you find it. This becomes so automatic that it stops feeling like fear. It just feels like your personality. Like you're simply the quiet one. But here's what makes this sign so dangerous. When you stop testing, you also stop giving anyone the chance to respond. Silence gets mistaken for disinterest, even by people who genuinely love to hear from you, and your brain doesn't know the difference between. Nobody responded because I never gave them the chance, and nobody responded because I really am invisible. It just files the silence away as proof. That's the loop. You stay quiet because you expect to be overlooked. Staying quiet makes you easier to overlook. Being overlooked confirms the expectation, and it tightens a little more. Every single time. In the background of every room you walk into, whether or not anyone in that room would have actually cared to hear from you. Sign 2. You apologize for taking up space. Watch how often you say sorry before saying something that needs no apology at all. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry, this might be a dumb question. Sorry, I know you're busy, but... Sorry, I'll make this quick. Say it enough times, and it stops sounding like a word. It starts sounding like a warning you give people before you've even finished the sentence. This habit looks like politeness. Most people assume it's just good manners, a small courtesy that costs nothing. Often, it's something else. It's a quiet signal your brain sends before you speak. A kind of preemptive shrinking. Designed to make your presence feel smaller and less risky before anyone has the chance to react to it. You're not apologizing for what you said. You're apologizing for showing up at all. People who've felt unseen for a long time often develop this reflex without even noticing. Every apology becomes a small rehearsal for disappearing. practiced so often, it starts to feel like humility instead of what it actually is. And here's the part that makes it worse: when you consistently signal that your presence is an inconvenience. People around you start treating it that way too. Not out of cruelty, but because you've quietly trained the room to expect very little from you. And rooms tend to deliver exactly what they're trained to expect. The apology that was supposed to protect you ends up being the thing that keeps you invisible. Which brings us to the sign most people never recognize in themselves at all. Sign 3. You remember every room you left unnoticed. This is the sign nobody talks about. Because it doesn't look like sadness. It looks like a strangely specific memory. You can recall, in vivid detail, the birthday nobody mentioned. The message that got left unread. The group photo you weren't in. The conversation that moved on before you finished your sentence. Most people forget the small, unremarkable moments of a day. But if a part of you has been quietly cataloging every instance of being overlooked, that's not a coincidence. And it's not oversensitivity either. It's your brain doing exactly what it's designed to do. Collecting evidence to support a belief it already holds. Once your mind believes it's invisible, it becomes remarkably good at finding proof. The cruel irony is that the moments you were noticed, the message that got a reply, the joke that landed, the time someone remembered something you said weeks ago, rarely get stored with the same intensity. The evidence file is real. It's just badly biased. What this actually means: if any of these 3 signs sounded familiar, it doesn't mean you're broken, and it doesn't mean the people around you don't care. It usually means your brain built a prediction a long time ago, in a different set of circumstances, with different people, and it's still running that same old prediction today, in rooms where it may no longer even be true, with people who might actually be waiting for you to speak first. The first step isn't forcing yourself to become louder or more outgoing overnight. It's smaller than that. It's simply noticing the pattern while it's happening. Noticing the apology before it leaves your mouth. Noticing the urge to stay quiet instead of testing the room. Noticing when your mind reaches for the evidence file, instead of the moments that don't fit it. None of that requires becoming a different person. It just requires catching the old prediction in the act, because a prediction can only keep running unnoticed. The moment you see it clearly, it starts to lose its grip. If this video described something you felt, but never had words for, you're not the only one. Let me know in the comments which of these 3 signs hit closest to home, and if this resonated with you. The next video breaks down exactly how this pattern usually begins in childhood, and what actually helps it change. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you there.